Hello and welcome everybody, it's Karen. I am so glad you're here today. I hope this is a fun video for you. I'm doing a video about different ways to add an inside pop-up. I always love cards that have something extra special on the inside. So this one is really one that I enjoyed making. And I do hope you'll actually stay around for the last card because that might be my favorite. So Paper Rose had asked me to do something with these sewing gnomes, the embossed die cuts, and these are the butterfly gnomes embossed die cuts, and to sort of pair these up with the pastel patterns paper. So I'm going to show you those very quickly. These are the butterfly gnomes, and these are the pastel patterns. And so these are always double-sided. I've got the 6x6 paper here. Very soft, pretty colors, and one side tends to be busier than the others, so lots of choice as to which side you're going to use. And I know patterns are sometimes tricky to use. So I thought that I would pair these with this Dream and Pastel cardstock that Paper Rose has. Now these are one-sided, as you can see. They're also an A5 size, so quite a bit bigger than the 6x6. But lots of colors in there that I thought coordinated well with all of these papers. Okay, here is my first card. Super easy, you guys. This one is an insert that Paper Rose has come up with. They are pop-up inserts. So they're all scored, and all you need to do with these is fold the middle forward. And you'll see, I sort of pinch these. You can see how this is going to start to bend to make the pop-up. So you're just going to do a mountain fold in the center and a valley fold on the outside edges like this. And you get to this point and it will just go on its own. And then I just burnish these really well. So there it is. So that will go inside an A2 size card. Now there are two of these. One has got 3 pop-ups on the inside and this one has got 4. So you could put images on there, you could put sentiments, they can go landscape or portrait, whichever way you want them to go. So I just thought these were super fun and so easy to do. So what I had, in order to put them inside my card, I keep them folded and put glue on the one side. Now I'm backing this away from the center line just a little bit, and then I'll just close my card over that and pick up the glue. And then you can just fold it to the other side and add glue again to the inside. So this way you're not gluing it on those pop-up parts where you really don't want them popped up. And there you have it. So super quick, super easy to do, and not too expensive, those inserts either. Okay, so for this card, I have got the front covered and a little bit on the inside. On my computer, I printed off the word much. Now, I'm trying to make the sentiment thanks so much, S-E-W. So I've die cut this wishes twice from white cardstock and once from that pattern paper. And I'm just going in, trimming out the letters that I need for the sew. So you can see there I've just cut off the W, and then I cut off the S and the E. And here I'm just positioning that thanks where I want it to go. Now, if you are like me and some of those edges are a little rough, I keep a nail file in my craft room, and it's for exactly things like this. I just sort of sanded down those edges a little bit so they were a bit more even and rounded. Okay, now when you go to put your images on the inside, now it doesn't have to be these die cuts, it could be other ones that you've actually die cut yourself. I like to keep this card at 90 degrees so that I know I'm not going to fold my gnome. And here I'm trying to show you that if you put it too far to the right, you may end up with your image popping out like that. So you want to kind of keep an eye on that when you're adding things to those inserts. So if I keep my card at 90 degrees open here, I know he's not pushed up into the fold line on the left, and he's not going to come down on the right outside. Now I've popped this image up on some foam tape and a little bit of glue, and because it's fairly straight, it doesn't pop out of the card when it's closed. Now on this one, I'm trying to show you what I meant about the fold line. If this gnome was too far to the right where the card is going to fold, you'll see that his little pom-pom would bend with the fold. So that's why if you keep the card at 90 degrees, when you insert these things, it's a little bit easier to make sure you've got the positioning right. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just moving him a little bit to the left so his pom-pom doesn't get squished when the card closes, and he doesn't pop out, so I was happy with that. Now, on this insert at the back, you can span that middle line, but you just don't want to glue on both sides of the pop-up, just on the one side. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm putting a little bit of glue on the right-hand side, and I'll pop this in, and again, try to make sure that it's not butted up too far against the folded card. And then on this side, I had to trim a tiny little bit off so that it didn't bend into this other gnome image. So there's the finished card with all the little flowers coming down, and I just think that's such a fun thing. If you received a card like that, wouldn't that be fun? There's not a lot of bulk with this, surprisingly, so it fits into an envelope really easily. Now with this one, I thought I'd show you it in landscape. I have those afternoon in the park rub-ons, so I added those, and then all the gnomes. Now you could add pattern paper panels onto the top of those pop-ups, which I may end up going back and doing because it sort of bothers me that I've left it white. But there's that card. So just a fun way to add a wow inside. Okay, so here's another way to do it. That's the front of my card. So I've got that finished first because now on the inside, I have die cut 2 of these poppy field borders, and I've cut them from the same size paper because these need to be mirror images of each other. So you can see they're exactly the same size, and I've only colored the one that is going on the front. Now I left a 1/2 inch, and I really regret that. It should just be 1/4 inch from that score line to the side. So I would trim it down so you just have 1/4 inch. But you want those to be exactly mirror images. So I'm folding this one to the back. Now this one, even though that die cut, that's the wrong side of the die cut, it ends up being the right side on the back of the card. So you want to fold this to the front, which is the good side, the good cut side. And I'm putting some double-sided tape along those folded lines. Now, I've put some butterflies up on acetate, and I'm just kind of figuring out where to trim this off because it was going to be too long. So from that point, it just goes down to that score line. Then I can pop them in place, just butting up to the score line or just shy of it even. And then I lifted this up because I wasn't sure where my glue was going. And now this butterfly, I'm going to attach to the back of that gnome because I sort of wanted it to be extended up a little bit more. So the gnome sort of helps with that. So just putting this butterfly in place. And then for the gnome himself, I'm going to glue him just to the tops of those poppies. So I'll sort of angle him so he's going the way I want him to go. And he's going to end up getting sandwiched in between the 2 layers of poppies. So now you want to glue just the top 1/4, maybe the top 1/3 of your image, whatever it is. You could just free cut mountains or hills from 2 pieces of cardstock that were the same size. You don't have to use a die. I used the poppy die just because I had it, but you know, whatever you've got, you could do. But then you just want to glue the top 1/4 or the top 1/3 together at the top of it. Here I've removed the release paper on the back, and now this will go right up to that fold line. So I'm going to butt those bottom edges up to my score line and making sure it's centered left to right, and then just press that in place. And then I can remove this release paper and then close up the card. And now when you open it, all of this pops up. Now if you just did 1/4 inch for those score lines, it would be much closer together and it actually would look a bit better. So I do regret doing mine 1/2 inch. But it's really fun that those all stick up. Now I've got another gnome here that I'm going to just glue onto the front of those poppies. So I'm just putting some glue down. I've got glue on his feet, and then I'll pop him in place. So it's just a super fun pop-up on the inside. Now I changed those borders on the front. I didn't like what I had before, but there it is. That's what your recipient would see. And I think that's really quite fun. And you could make it whatever you want. Okay, now this is a card I saw done by Mitosu Crafts, and I'm going to put a link to their video down below. But this one, you open it and this whole little mechanism pops up. And there are no dies required for this. So you can see it folds down again quite flat. And this is all you need. So I've got a piece of 2 by 5 1/8 of an inch cardstock. I used 110-pound cardstock for this. And you just score that 1/2 inch in from each end. So I just rotate that because it's easier. And now this piece is 1.5 inches wide by 9 3/4 inches long. And you're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch, 5 1/4 inches, 7 inches, 7 1/2 inches, and then 9 1/4 inch. And that's all that you need for this. So on the 2-inch piece, I'm folding both those tabs down to the back and burnishing those. On this one, the 3/4 inch end, you're going to fold down into a mountain fold, and then all the other folds will go the exact opposite direction. So they're all going to be valley folds. So you can see I'm folding these all up, and then you can burnish all of those. But when this is folded, you'll see this mechanism. That's how it's going to work. Now on the inside of my A2 size card, I have put some pattern paper. I don't remember, I don't measure it. I just trimmed it down a bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch smaller than the inside of the card. And I did the same for this mechanism, as you can see. Now on that 1/2 inch piece, you don't need to put anything because your die cut image will go there. But what I'm trying to show you here is that on this first card, I just cut a panel that was that size that you can see there. And I found that it caught a little bit going underneath that center mechanism. So here I am now putting a piece of pattern paper that covers the whole of that section. I hope that makes sense. But what I'm showing you now, I'm going to put this mechanism on the left-hand side of my card because I prefer that I'm a right-handed writer, so it's easier not to have the mechanism on the right side. So this 3/4 inch tab, I have got some glue on it, and we're going to put this I just butt it a little bit away from the actual fold line, but I'm trying to center it top to bottom. So not exactly on the score line, I just move it back a little bit so there's no problems. And then just fold it back over to the left to make sure it's nicely lined up top to bottom and it's straight. Now this piece actually holds that long section down, so that's its main function, I would say. So I'm putting glue on these 2 tabs, and I'm going to, basically it goes to where that pattern paper ends, but I'm leaving it about 1/2 inch to the right of that fold line on that long piece. You'll see that here. So there, it's about 1/2 inch away from that fold line and sort of lines up top to bottom there with the other pattern paper. Now this mechanism, we're going to put glue on this tab, and it's going to attach right to where that pattern paper ends, basically on this vertical piece. So I'm just gluing that down. Now you kind of want to close it and make sure it's not popping out or anything like that. So I was kind of careful closing it. But then you can go back in and burnish it down and just make sure it's all stuck down in place. And then I'm putting some glue on that center 1/2 inch section, and I can attach my gnome. Now you could put sentiments behind on that, or popping out underneath or below him. You could put hearts or balloons, so long as it doesn't come out from the the edges of the card. And so on the right side, I just put a little square of cardstock to write a message, and then I have another die cut here from it's from a different collection. I will have everything listed below. But that's the finished card. I've popped that gnome up on foam tape on the front with some pearls, and that's the inside. And I thought that was really a fun mechanism for an inside pop-up. Okay, now this is my last example to show you, but I love this one. When you open this up, this whole arch pops up, and you have all these die cuts that you can add to it. You could be adding sentiments. It could be, well, the example I saw this done by Crafts by Liuba, I think her name is. I'll link to her video below. She had done butterflies, but I thought with these gnomes, how much fun is that to see all these little gnomes sewing away. And it's a card sending love and hugs, and I just thought that was kind of fun. But it's a real wow card, and it's easy. So I have modified mine a little bit from the video that I did see, and I'm using a piece of 110-pound cardstock that is 6 inches wide by 3 3/4 inches tall, and I just scored that at 3 inches, so right in the middle. Now I'm going to use the lines on my grid mat there. You could use a ruler, but basically I'm just going down 1 inch across the top. Now the fold is on the left, and I'm just going to pencil in a line that's 1 inch down from the top. And then we'll go 1 inch from the right hand side. So we're just penciling this in. It's to make an arch, so we're just going to draw this. So there, I'm going to mark that 1 inch from the right hand side. And then all you need to do from this point is we are going to pencil a bit of a curved line from those 2 pencil points. And honestly, it does not matter if you don't get a perfectly curved arch. It's going to be covered with those die cuts. And then I curved on the inside as well. And you can fiddle with this a little bit with your scissors, but truly it doesn't show on the finished card. So just do your best and it'll be fine. So then I'm just cutting through both thicknesses of card there, trying to round that out a little bit as I go. And then you'll see we've got a bit of an arch happening now. Now, on the top, the fold is on the left. You need to count across 3/4 of an inch across and 3/4 of an inch going down the center fold line. Now you could put this back in your scoreboard. You could draw a pencil line between them and put it back in the scoreboard. I actually just find this the easiest. I line up my ruler, hold it firmly down in place, and bend that corner up against the ruler. And then I usually just take my bone folder and I go in and try to score that line. We're just trying to get a score right there. And then I fold it back the other way, and so you're really getting it to bend. Now here you open it up and you want that middle part to go to the back. So I'm kind of folding along those score lines, bringing the arches forward and that centerpiece to the back, and it will go. And once you get that nicely lined up, then you can burnish that. So there's the center. Now on these legs, I'm going to count up 1/2 inch on the inside and mark it, and 3/4 of an inch on the outside leg. And again, I'm just going to use my ruler, but you could put it back in your scoreboard and score that properly, but I just find this quickest and easiest. So just pushing that up and burnishing. And then I'm going to fold it back the other way so I've got it going both directions. And so now we're going to fold those to the inside and burnish them. And then, so you can see here, everything is pointing to the back. So that center goes to the back and the feet go to the back. Now I've got it folded up, and there's just that one extra little triangle on both legs. So I just trim it off, and then I erase any pencil marks. And that's the mechanism. Now I've got a 5 by 7 inch card there and I'm straddling that center line. Now if you pull this tight, it just won't pop up. So you sort of, I angled it back in a little bit, just so there's a bit of give there, but I am trying to keep that center point across the middle line. And I'm keeping it to the top of the card so that it's going to fold down to the bottom. So then you have a bit more room for attaching images. So I would keep this more to the top of the inside of your card. But once you've got the position where you want it to be, I just fold it down like this, put glue on this first tab. So I was just holding that in place. And then you can fold it back into half and put glue on the other tab and then just close up the card. And pick that up, and then you'll see when you open it, you have this fantastic little pop-up. Super easy, actually. But all the things you could put on that, it's amazing. Now, I just take scraps of cardstock that I have. These are to make the boxes. So I fold them in half, and then I fold them in half again. Now, these could be wider. I think mine were about, I don't know if that's 1/4 of an inch, I think, or maybe 1/2 an inch. But whatever you have in your scraps, you could do this. If you want, you can measure them out so they're all the same size. But honestly, folding them in half and half again, you're always going to get a square. So here, I'm just showing you, this one is 4 inches, and I'm just folding it in half, pinching it, and then fold it in half again, and pinch it in place. And there you're going to have a 1-inch square box. So that's the difference in size, which I think is kind of fun. Now you could use these on the inside of your card, just butt these up to the center line. So I've got the fold on the left, and these are the 2 ends that are not attached, but I'm putting glue on both of them. And then I will butt this right up to my arch. So just centering that in front of my arch, and then all you have to do is close the card down and it will pick up. So those could be in the center of your card, and that's another pop-up that you could do that's really simple. And I've done videos on that before. So there's that arch, and then I've put one on the other side. And now I'm just decorating the inside. I'm just checking again to make sure nothing goes down. And the whole purpose of those little boxes actually is to separate the distance between the gnomes so they're not stacked on top of each other. So there are these gnomes. I've just added those leaves and flowers. You could add more decoration to the back, and the video I saw, she definitely did. I don't think I would add to the top of those boxes because it does flatten down and it may impede what happens with the images on there. But I think it's really a fun card. So that's the front. I've finished it off. I've added a few more of the leaves and the flowers and that gnome on some of the patterned paper. And then when you open it up, what a fun card to get. So I hope I've given you some inspiration here today, everyone. I really hope you'll give one or more of these a try. They are so much fun to get, and they're fun to make. Thanks for stopping by. Talk to you next time.